Here are some of the lyrics. You ready? Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. Hold up. I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pullout game weak. Yeah, you effin' with some wet ass P-word. P-word is female genitalia. Bring a bucket and a mop for this wet ass P-word. Give me everything you got for this wet ass P-word. It continues along these lines. And it gets significantly more vulgar. Like a lot more vulgar. Talk your S-word, bite your lip, ask for a call while you ride that D-word. You really ain't never gonna F him for a thing. He already made his mind up before he came. Now get your boots and your coat for this wet-ass P-word. Pay my tuition just to kiss me on this wet-ass P... Right, so this is... Guys, this is what feminists fought for. This is what the feminist movement was all about. It's not... it's not really about, women being treated as independent, full, rounded human beings. It's about... wet-ass P-word.
Should we do it? Is video working? Should we all make a quick soy face to make sure? Thank you guys. When I first learned about the soy face, I went back and looked at my Instagram, and 90% of my photos were me making the soy face.
Well, it is it did solve the problem of what do you do in a photo? That was the thing. It's
yes.
The soy face. It was when they used to put morphine in just Coke and shit. It was oh, well, what do we put in this? The soy face was well, what do you do in a picture? And it solved that problem, and it was the solution we needed at the time. But, looking back, we're oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that.
I still reflexively do it. And I will, whoever's taking the photo, I'll be let's grab another one and delete that one. Because they've won. Because now I look at it as an indictment of my femininity.
Well, that's it. Is that you have to remember, these are people who are miserable all the time, and no one has ever taken a picture of them, who invented the term. And it's really just being, getting people, you're going to be as miserable as me now. And as awkward in public because now you're worried that you have a soy face, which is why I just do it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, what else am I going to do when I get a Nintendo Switch? I like the idea of old Civil War era photographs where it's a regiment before they go into battle and they're all killed the next day, but they have to make the soy face for an hour while it leads into a copper plate.
There's a great statue where I grew up of Philip Sheridan on his horse, and he's making the soy face. On his horse the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that once you let it into your brain, it never leaves. You see it everywhere all the time, and you begin to look at your own life in a new light.
Much like many things on your show.
Yes,
things I didn't know existed, and now they dominate my thoughts.
Just briefly before we were starting recording, you were talking, Felix, you're bringing up how god awful your YouTube recommends are. So I brought up my YouTube homepage, and the top video recommended for me was just called "Are You Happy, David Lynch?"
I love YouTube takedowns that are in 3 parts, and they're when Family Guy went off the rails, and it's a combined 21 hours. That shit's I mean, part of the great and the awful thing about YouTube is that it's sort of democratized being a crank. It used to be a crank, you had to invent the Model T or a type of soap, and now you can just get straight to the part where you write your manifesto.
Yeah, now you just need a car and a fast food parking lot, and you're good.
Yeah, you're good.
And that's why they're worse, because there's no discipline involved.
Yeah,
Henry Darger had to spend 8 hours a day mopping the floor at a Chicago hospital so that he could go home and make the giant tapestries of little girls getting strangled by aliens. He didn't get to just do that in his mom's basement with a fucking Photoshop.
I own 14 Henry Dargers. They're all over my house. My young daughters are terrified constantly.
All right, well, let me officially start the show. Let's kick things off. It's hello, it's Chapo. We've got me, Matt, and Felix are back in the cut. But as a little treat for you guys, joining us today is Ike Barinholtz. Ike, what's going on?
Boys, how are you? Long time coming. First time, long time.
First time, long time. But I would like to, before we officially kick things off on the start of the show, I would just like to do a personal acknowledgement that, yes, I am working on my birthday. It is my birthday today. Couldn't think of a better present than to have you here with us, Ike. But
happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you.
That also means that you could drop any kind of take you want and no one can get mad at you because it's your birthday.
That's true.
In that regard, like obviously the passage of time and getting older is cause for us all to reflect on things we've done or past behaviors that perhaps, we were willing to own up to or admit to now. And in light of that, in light of my birthday, I think it's time for me to address the fact that, being a person in their 30s, when I started out doing this podcast, did involve me grooming Felix, a man in his 20s, to come on the podcast. But I'd just like to be clear that at the time he had vastly more Twitter followers than I do, so the power differential was such that I felt okay doing it and grooming him to be on the show. But I would like to take this time now to apologize and acknowledge my grooming of a 20-year-old man, Felix, to be on my podcast. So please accept this apology.
Well, I accept it, but also at the time you had read multiple books and I had not yet completed one. Right now, I'm very proud to be at 0.75 of a book that I've completed, and it's a different time. Like, this wouldn't have happened if I had read the 3/4 of the book that I've read over the last 5 years.
Is this that guy, Carl von Nosgard?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've read half of that book and 25% of Behold a Pale Horse. And I don't know. I think, we run it back and I read those pages, those dozens of pages. Maybe I'm on Pod Save America. But, we're here, we're now, we can't change the past, so I accept the apology.
I only read books written by, John Bolton and Mary Trump. I only read, resistance books. That's all I read.
Does Preet Bharara have a book? He has to, right?
I don't think he does.
Oh.
He's blowing it if he doesn't.
They're leaving millions on the table if they don't have him write a book.
Well, does he still run Cafe?
Yeah. Well, no, that's his brother, Vinette. No, that podcast actually, the Preet Bharara podcast, is very big. But they're leaving millions on the table not having a book.
Do you think Trump will ever write another book? In 10 years when he's just being shuffled from room to room in Mar-a-Lago and someone's like, we'll pay you $2 million to do a book or whatever. Do you think he would do another one?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know who would write it. I would like to write it.
I would like to write it. I would like you to write it.
It would be, we could work together on it. I would like it to be a graphic novel.
Chapter 4, Elle Macpherson is a liar.
By the way, Preet Bharara has written a book. It came out last year. It's called Doing Justice, A Prosecutor's Thoughts on Crime, Punishment, and the Rule of Law. So the fact that we couldn't even think of that means it probably didn't do too well.
I don't know. I mean, it might be one of those books you've never fucking heard of and it sold 30 million copies.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the exact opposite of all the people who buy the Bill O'Reilly murder books. Different historical figures being murdered.
If I did it, if I was the one who killed Lincoln.
If I was on the grassy knoll, here's how I would have done it.
In today's Pinheads file, we're talking Guy Bannister.
I hear he's writing this next one's going to be a biography of Nietzsche called Killing God.
Felix, back when you were doing Diggler, I remember you said that you ended up in the same room with Preet or something. It was some reception or party, and you said it was the closest you've ever felt to just being carted off to ADX Florence to be solitary for the rest of your life.
Yes. We met him when it was in Philadelphia. We were all in Philadelphia. That was kind of the time when I was I don't know how long this cafe thing's gonna last, because they just they had floor passes for the DNC, but they didn't give it to Rob Wisman or Stefan. They gave it to I don't even remember, but it was I don't know about this. And we had that exciting show in the batting cage, and I was like, this seems way more promising, and I was actually right. That was actually a good bet, but there was some weird party Cafe had that was live streamed, and I met Preet there, and I mean, you know what a federal prosecutor's like from watching Billions.
Of course I do.
Yeah,
He just asked you to piss on him immediately.
Yeah, exactly. No, he was like, I mean, just like very serious. And you're like, oh, this guy's like, I get like, if you use the definition of killing someone as just like sending them away forever, it's like dozens of bodies, and I don't know. I was just worried about saying the wrong thing around him. But it went okay. Apparently, he liked the Diggler articles. I don't know how true that was, but I don't know. It was a very nerve-wracking moment for me.
Whenever I want to introduce people to Chapo, the podcast I send them is when you guys went to CPAC.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's your fucking apocalypse now.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like
No.
your
Yeah.
that is
Definitely-
like
Never get
It
out
was
of the
the most
boat. Never get
emotionally,
out of the boat, Ike.
It was definitely the most emotionally taxing show we ever did. That's for sure. I spent like a week after that, just like in a very deep funk, just like considering my life and how I ended up there. It was something.
I consider it the greatest weekend of my life. Literally, I had an amazing time. That was like, how people they're like, oh, we're having a weekend in Miami. That was CPAC for me. I had such a fucking good time. Like in every, like seeing Trump live, seeing Diamond and Silk, taking a date to the Benny Johnson party. It was a fucking great time. I had
you guys saw that's one of the best Trump speeches ever. Like they're not really good anymore. He's too low energy and he's too kind of broken. That was really like the last good time for him. Yeah, he was going off in a very funny, insane way. It's not like that anymore. He's too defensive now because he doesn't feel like he's winning. So it's all just grievances and like explaining why he had to be slow going down the ramp and stuff. But CPAC, it was still smooth sailing, and he was just able to riff on the toilets and the how you can't get the TV to go on if the wind isn't turning the turbines. Dear, I want to watch TV, dear. Oh, I'm sorry, dear.
Yeah.
He just does a little Lockhorn sketch.
Yeah, that was like, so that day that Trump spoke, the guy who warmed up the crowd before, there was like an awful symposium with Alex Azar that was like, oh yeah, how can we cut payroll tax more? And then there was some like crank rabbi who brought up these like Thanos stones and was like, oh, this proves that Israel has been around for 1 billion years, actually. Predates the Bible. And then Trump, it was like Diamond and Silk, which was like, all right, we're fucking doing something here. Let's go.
Good. I'd love to see them live.
They were awesome live.
They were absolutely electric. The crowd could not get enough of them.
Yeah.
I like them because they have a lot of like they unabashedly don't have like an act really. You know what I mean? It's just repeating shit. The guy that like me and my friends are kind of obsessed with is, I don't know if you guys know Terrence Williams.
Yes.
Yeah. He's like a guy who like I first saw him like on Sean Hannity just doing like it's really like it's not cool. Like he like stands and like eats food while like a clip of like Nancy Pelosi plays and he just shakes his head and he's like, Nancy Pelosi, go to bed. You are it's so fucking bad. But he has like the kind of like a patina of like I'm like an actual comedian, whereas Diamond and Silk don't. Diamond and Silk are like, we are Diamond and Silk. That's what we fucking do. And I respect them as performers a lot more than him. I just want to say
I respect Diamond. I have no respect for Silk. I'm on the record on this. She is dead weight. I understand that she carries she does an important thing because she does the sassy black lady voices and the noises.
She's the echo, yeah.
And someone has to do that because that's what they're getting. They're getting like, oh, look, it's sassy black people like from TV, but they agree with me. But so you can't have one person doing both. So she has to do it. But that's all she does, and I really think that makes her very replaceable.
Yeah, but like, what are you gonna like replace Elwood Blues because he doesn't talk a lot? Like they're the Blues Brothers, man.
Yeah, but he can play the harmonica. If she could play the harmonica, I would retract my statement about Silk.
Silk
if she
is
just
like
busted out like some hot fucking licks, I would appreciate it.
Silk is like the George Harrison of Diamond and Silk. It's actually responsible for writing some of your greatest hits.
It would be funny if she wrote all the material.
Yeah. Behind the scenes, she's doing all kinds of shit you don't even know about, man.
Yeah, exactly. That Trump speech fucking rocked though, because I mean, he hit on all the big hits like Handsome Generals, General Raisin Cane, all those, but like
I like you, Raisin.
yeah, that part where that really fucking weird part where he's like, it was while he was talking about Mueller. He's like, and he put together 19 Democrats, and one of them has the worst reputation of all time.
Yes.
And I have a thing that I want to call them, but Melania said I shouldn't say it. Should I say it? Should I say it? And then he never said what it was. And it was
You
like,
left him guessing. That was showmanship.
yeah, that was fucking great. Yeah, no, all the speeches now are about like micro grievances or hairspray, literally about hairspray or toilets. Like they kind of suck. But that was like the last hurrah.
Well, speaking of that was his Altamont.
People forget.
People forget that Matt was stabbed by a Hell's Angel when.
Honestly, they wanted to.
No, seriously, your ass was
They
showing.
fucking wanted to murder
me. They were like,
because I would not respect them.
Sit down.
I did not respect their request for me to sit down so that they could see their big wet president. And they got mad at me.
Trump,
Matt was getting yelled at.
And then I accidentally showed them my ass crack.
Matt got yelled at a lot that weekend.
Matt's getting assaulted in the audience, and Trump in the middle of the Raising Cane speech, like Mick Jagger. He's like, brothers and sisters, please,
Come on, stop.
calm down.
Come down, everyone.
Peace, brothers and sisters. Speaking of Trump, and I mean, you guys say maybe his best days are past him. Like it's there's no more Donnie deals. But you know what? A story came out this week that said that basically confirmed that speculation that Donald Trump had told a South Dakota Republican representative, Kristi Noem, when he first met her in the Oval Office. He told her straight up that it is, quote, "It's my dream to have my face on Mount Rushmore." She says, "I started laughing. He wasn't laughing. He was totally serious." So she said, like, "Yo, Mr. Trump, please come to South Dakota. We have Mount Rushmore." And he just goes, "It's always been my dream to be on Mount Rushmore," which I think absolutely needs to happen. Because, I mean, if there's one national monument that Trump deserves to be on, it's Mount Rushmore. It's got to be that. And I think...
Do you think he could name the 4 presidents on Mount Rushmore?
I think you would get tripped up in the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, George Washington, classic, the original, the original guy, and then of course Thomas Jefferson, another a great guy. There's a Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt.
JFK.
Yeah, he probably doesn't know which Roosevelt.
He would trip up on Roosevelt, and he'd be like, "I think it's great that he got him on the mountain, even though he's sitting down all the time. He's in a chair."
I mean, I love Mount Rushmore because it's like simultaneously like it's pretty impressive that someone did that, but also like it's so fucking tacky. Like it sucks. Like it is. It's like whenever we make fun of like countries like Kazakhstan or something where it's like, oh, isn't it so stupid? They have like a rotating statue of the guy who's been president for 45 years. It's like, that's what Mount Rushmore is.
It's the largest bas relief in the world.
So yeah, he should
Isn't it?
be on it.
Or is that Stone Mountain? I can't remember. One of the two of them is like the largest.
Both designed by the same guy.
The same guy who, if I'm not mistaken, was a Klansman.
He was indeed.
Straight up, yeah.
Gutzon Borglum.
Yes.
That's a teacot name if ever there was one.
Gutzon Borglum. We spoke to Gutzon Borglum, the local commissioner of the Republican Party in Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah.
There was, you could just, your first name used to be able to be just like whatever. What a good time in America. Back when opium was in everything, you could just you could just name your kid like Claw Grab.
This is my daughter Hortense.
Yeah.
And now you can only name your kid after the dang Hunger Games or something.
Well, everyone's name ends in DEN now.
Yeah.
Caden, Braden,
and the Aidens
Jaden.
and the Gradens.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, if there is space to add Trump's face to Mount Rushmore, I think it should be. And if there's extra,
100%.
And if there's extra space, I think we should add a few other luminaries from American culture and history. Of course, beginning with Grimace. It should be there should be Grimace on Mount Rushmore as well.
There should absolutely be a Grimace on Mount Rushmore.
And
Annoyed, of course.
And maybe Garfield too.
Annoyed.
Garfield, absolutely.
I'm not I'm a Heathcliff boy. Garfield's a little
controversial.
Garfield's like a little spoiled cuck who sits at home all day. Heathcliff's on the fucking streets, man. Heathcliff's eating fish bones and shit.
True, it's on that grind.
Heathcliff was like the Velvet Underground of cartoons.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't as big as Garfield, who was, more like Rolling Stones. But everyone who read Heathcliff went on to make their own strip.
Like Heathcliff was he was a lunch pail, comic strip cat. It didn't matter if it was Monday. He was out there grinding, like you said.
If you put the two of them, if you put Heathcliff and Garfield in like a dogfight situation, but like with cats, you would leave the room and 1 minute later come back and Heathcliff would just be sucking on a pile of cat bones, just pulling like a cat femur out of his mouth. Alpha.
Well, okay. Speaking of Alpha, I got another follow up. This is a follow up to a story that we recently covered, and we spent much of the last episode discussing Jerry Falwell Jr. and his Trailer Park Boys party on the yacht. Wouldn't you know it? This did him in. He is now announced that he is taking a leave of absence from Liberty University at the request of the Board of Trustees. It says the college's statement did not mention a reason for the board's request, but the announcement comes at the end of a week in which Falwell has faced unprecedented pressure to resign from prominent associates of the college. Last weekend, Falwell Jr. posted a photograph to his Instagram in which he posed with his arm around a pregnant woman with a bare midriff at a private yacht party. I just going on here. It says, this upset a lot of Southern Baptist pastors, says DJ Jordan, a Liberty graduate with strong ties to the alumni community. The visual is so stunning, and even more so to these conservative retired pastors and business leaders who make up a portion of the board. Listen to DJ Jordan and like as a mouthpiece for all these fucking haters taking down our boy Jerry Falwell. And by the way, I love this statement. I love this quote. The visual is just so stunning. It's true. It is stunning. It's a fucking Radiant King winning, and these fucking babies and losers can't handle it, so they had to get him out of there.
To steal this shine.
They had to block his shine. But Liberty University's loss is perhaps our gain, as I will now officially make the request for Jerry Falwell Jr. to come on board as Chapo Trap House's full-time spiritual advisor and real estate sort of wheeling dealing expert.
I think it's outrageous. I've been a fan of Liberty since they won the Final Four. And the funny thing is that the picture was one thing, but his explanation was the greatest. He goes, I'm gonna be a good little boy.
That was all, like he couldn't even do the apology not wasted. I like the reaction to this has been funny because I've seen those people who are like, oh, I'm actually a progressive Christian. They belong to some like Episcopal church where the pastor wears the chambray shirt and plays guitar. Which is like, I don't know. I have more respect for like people who are just like Eastern Orthodox and like for some religious reason only use Android phones. They were like, oh, good news, Falwell's out, and it's like, why do you give a shit if Liberty's well run? Like the entire thing is a scam. It always has been. It's like always been for fucking cranks. His dad, who I guess you think ran the whole thing well. Like his thing was, calling Teletubbies gay propaganda and shit. Like it's always been awful.
Well, that is true.
It's true, but
you can agree on that.
It's true, but you shouldn't make an issue out of it. It's just like one of the agreed upon lies of society that keeps the whole thing running. But it's like, why not have this cool crackhead running it? He's cool. Like he's entertaining. I would go back to school to go to Liberty if Falwell Jr. was still leading it.
Back to school, back to school,
Rodney Dangerfield.
Back to School 2, starring Felix Biederman going to Liberty University.
I've always wanted to live like 5 years of my life as a Gentile, not the whole thing, but like 5 years.
Yeah, it's like that Curb Your Enthusiasm episode where Larry thinks he's a Gentile and goes to live with his like biological parents. It'll be like,
If I went to Liberty for like 3 years, I would be able to digest milk. Like I would be able to drink again.
Problem.
Yeah, no, it would be.
You'd be doing fucking butt funnels. You'd be eating fried cheese sticks.
Yeah,
you'd have a hat. You'd have a backwards hat on.
I would stop. Yeah, I would.
Madison.
I would stop caring about Gladio and shit like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give a shit
you'd be
about
much happier. You'd be like happier. Your sex life would probably take a hit because I don't think they have any sex there.
I don't even think. Well, unless you're Jerry Jr.
I don't even think Jerry. Here's my whole thing: is I was texting Felix this. I don't even think he had sex with that woman. I don't think he has sex with any women. I think he does this weird shit where it's like, all right, now I'm gonna push this remote control into my private while you sit here and read this dirty magazine. Like, it's not like they can't allow themselves the true decadence. Right? They're like you guys have pointed out, they still have that like Protestant thing in their head where they can't like fully let go. Not like if you're Catholic or Jewish where you're just like, everyone come.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're just busting everywhere and then you feel bad about it for the rest of your life. I like remember that thing with the pool boy?
Yeah.
Do I remember? I think about it every day.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's pretty clear what he's into, allegedly, like in a parody sense. And it's like, I mean, depending on how close you get with the man, your sex life could be great with one person.
That is true. You would definitely be in some kind of throuple situation.
Yeah.
You'd be very poly.
I mean, I like the idea, like, Roger Stone was into the whole, like, bang my wife thing. But
oh, yeah. And my buddy and I found that personal ad that he put out in the 90s. And the funniest line is, because it's all, like, super filthy. It's like, look at my wife's big fucking pussy. But, like, the last thing he says is, personality counts.
It's still like he still has that Republican thing where it's like if you're interviewing for a job on a landscaping crew, you have to show up in a tuxedo to show that you give a damn.
It reminds me of a
like bullshit attitude.
It reminds me of a John McCain's book that he put out before his presidential run was called Character Matters. But now I'm just imagining that's like in a back page ad or like a FetLife profile.
The longest back page ad ever put out by Random House. It's Falwell's hot wife thing was cool because he had to involve a real estate scam into it. Like that may be the thing. It's like he was like he didn't really want to be into the cucking thing. He's like, oh yeah, do you want to do this? I guess, but the real thing he likes is doing like a semi-legal real estate deal. That might be the only thing, like, because he sold the guy a bunch of parkland for like pennies on the dollar.
He sold him the gym at the university that they had built for the school, and he's just like he will sell it to like reduce the footprint or something, and they gave it to him for a very, very low price. Yeah,
and wasn't it a gym that only Jerry could use? It was like a private
it was
gym.
supposed to be. It was supposed to be for the school, but in reality, it was just for Jerry. Just for Jerry and his buddy, just to get sweaty and loose together.
God bless him.
God bless him.
He knows how to have a good time. More than most people could say.
Amen.
Well, he should be the Pope of Protestants. Like no one represents them in America better than him.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
they need one.
Could have been charged.
Well, okay. So as long as we're talking about society and decadence, this next clip I have for you, I've been sitting on this one for a while because I didn't know like the context with which to bring it up. But now I think is the perfect time because we've got Ike in the cut, and as fans of Chapo and fans of Ike are certainly aware of, Ike, you were in a canonical film in the Chapo canon and a canonical film in our culture. I'm speaking, of course, about Suicide Squad. This was a major moment in Chapo, but you were in the film Suicide Squad,
yes.
and as such, were in very close proximity to the Joker.
Well, even you just saying that name right now, my blood has run cold.
Yes, I mean, then that must have been, like it's a harrowing experience. I mean, like, did you come out of it okay? I guess not. But
no.
Here's the point. Here's where I'm going with this. Are you familiar with the cartoonist and brain genius Scott Adams?
Yeah,
okay.
I am very familiar with Scott Adams.
Recently, Scott Adams had some thoughts on the Joker and the society we live in. And this was not your Joker film. It was the Joker film that came after it. But like, really,
yes.
The Joaquin Phoenix Joker could not have existed without the Suicide Squad Joker. I mean, like,
well, my Joker is Conor O'Malley. He's my person.
Absolutely. So Scott shared his thoughts about film and the Joker recently. I'm just going to read here. This is a series of tweets from him. He says, "In the old days, movies were mostly entertainment with a bit of social mind control sprinkled in. But our skills at movie making kept improving along with our mind control skills. In 2020, a movie like The Joker can rewire an entire nation into seeing things in its frame. If you don't think a great movie can rewire minds, consider how many Matrix references you have heard in the past year. And that movie is old. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine, which probably helps to keep you alive, but it also makes you programmable. If I feed you the same pattern often enough, it becomes a fact to you. CNN and Fox News feed their audiences different patterns. I'm willing to bet 90% of the protesters have seen Joker. It is so powerful and well made that it bounces around in your brain and burrows in, forming a dominant go-to pattern for your thinking. Can one movie nudge a young person into violence and anarchy? A bad movie can't. Even a good movie can't do that, but Joker can. The movie is next level persuasion-wise. So that is so. Yeah, I mean, you laugh at it, but Ike, I mean, you've experienced firsthand how being around a Joker can be a form of mind control.
Listen, I hate to say this, that Scott Adams is 100% right. And my experiences with the Joker, as we called him, Mr. J, were nothing short of A, terrifying, but B, influential. After I finished working with the Joker, I came home. I was nothing but disrespectful to my wife. She'd be like, hey man, time to fold laundry. I'd be like, buzz off. I'd go downstairs. I'd watch what I want to watch on TV. I basically looked at authority and said, fuck off. You know what I mean? And that kind of attitude is why we're seeing protests right now. He's 100% right, as always.
You found yourself watching a television report of some horrible crime happening, and instead of being disgusted, you were laughing, and you didn't even know why. You found
when
it so funny.
I found myself chuckling, and my wife said, "What's so funny?" And I said, "None of your damn business, bitch." This is a true story. I've never told anyone this before, but I think the lowest point in my life in show business was after I was on MADtv for a long time, and then after MADtv, I couldn't get hired a lot as an actor. I don't know why. I guess making fun of TV shows on a TV show for 5 years isn't a great way to get hired on other TV shows. But I'm a writer, so my partner and I would sell scripts and stuff, and we would chase down. We were very, 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 very low level writers, and the jobs we were chasing down were fucking terrible. And the worst one was the Dilbert movie.
Oh,
yeah, they were going to make a Dilbert movie, and like Dave and I, my partner, had to like break a Dilbert story. And there was going to be like an action comedy with like Dilbert. I don't even like Dilbert. I never in my life read a Dilbert and was like, oh, that's good take. But we needed money. We were fucking broke. And so we had to pitch Scott Adams over the phone and pitch him. And Dilbert jumps out the window and all this shit, you know. And he had a lot of like notes and thoughts and like droned on and on and on. But then they you're not going to believe this. There wasn't enough interest to make the movie. They never made the movie. So, that's my Scott Adams story.
I love, did you see when Scott Adams was like, he said, I've been a victim of affirmative action. They buried Dilbert on UPN, which is an urban network. And the audience didn't appreciate Dilbert, which is like one of the most interesting forms of racism I've ever heard.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I have like an embarrassing memory of my childhood. It was like 8 or 9. I like wanted to appear smarter, and I thought like one thing all adults did was read Doonesbury and Dilbert.
That's true of Doonesbury. Doonesbury is only for adults.
That's
Doonesbury is strictly for adults.
Doonesbury was the first manga. But I would read both and be like, this fucking sucks. Like, I didn't understand it at all. I didn't understand anything about Dilbert. I think if I went back and looked at Dilbert, it is like a sort of you could interpret it as like a like, oh, look at these cucked bug men who live in pods type thing. But at the time, as a 9-year-old, I did not understand it.
At least you read it, because I remember I have a distinct memory of being 9 and telling all my friends at school that I read The Bonfire of the Vanities. And I'll never forget, my parents came to an open house and they went to Miss Tiersky, the librarian, and Miss Tiersky goes, I can't believe Isaac read the Bonfire of the Vanities. My parents go, he didn't read the fucking Bonfire of the Vanities. He can't read. He reads Archie. He's an idiot.
I love it if like one of your friends would call you on it and just be like, oh wow, what's it about? And you're just like, it's a big old bonfire. These guys start a fire and.
Basically, there's this like big fire they have every year in Central Park, and one year it just gets out of control. And
everyone was so vain. They're just so vain there. And it's just about that. The New York Times called it a novel for our era.
I see.
I did read Bonfire of the Vanities when I was 15, and it you didn't get anything out of, even if you had read it, you wouldn't have gotten anything out of it. Because I didn't. No. I liked the book, but it was also like, who am I going to tell about this?
It's capturing a very, very specific moment in time.
Yeah,
nothing more, really.
As I was just talking about comic strips and childhood memories, I remember around the same age, being 9 years old, I was very into the funny pages, and like that was one of the ways that I related to my grandfather. Oh, when we would hang out, we'd always read the comics together, talk about them. I'd show my Garfield drawings, but he was a very conservative guy, and I remember him like complaining to 9-year-old me about why Doonesbury is on the comic pages and not the editorial pages. And I didn't get it. I was like, I don't know. Like I was like, it's not very funny. I don't like it either. I don't get it.
My hometown newspaper on the editorial page had Doonesbury, but also Mallard Fillmore as balance.
I love Mallard Fillmore. It is the ravings of an insane alcoholic.
The guy spent a month of his strips yelling at the judge who sentenced him for a DUI. How do you beat that? And that was in the newspaper. Like Ben Garrison shit people make fun of, but like that's just him doing it on like MS Paint and then putting on the internet.
Yeah,
that's syndicated into hundreds of newspapers nationwide.
The fact that Ben Garrison is able to make it through one of his own paintings without jacking himself off to death is a testament to his restraint. Because every Republican they all look like Tom Hardy in Warrior.
I love Ben Garrison. I think he has a totally unique art style.
He is talented. He's very talented.
He has even most kids I got really into conservative. We did an entire episode about political cartoons, but you remember Glenn McCoy and all those shitters? They would just draw horrible, if you were holding the crayon with your entire fist, you would draw like them, and it would be there was the one where Obama is just outside of a dumpster in Planned Parenthood beating fetuses with a bat, just making sure they're dead. And awful boilerplate conservative bullshit. But Ben Garrison's is what if Lindsey Graham was 6'4" and just 7% body fat, and there were bullets labeled soy bouncing off his perfect triangle dick muscle. It's all, and the bullet, and it's John Brennan being he's too strong, and Lindsey Graham going, I do reps of the Constitution. It's so good. It's so pure. His ideology is so distinct, and his art style is so.
I like the one recently where he drew Trump giving him a thumbs up and saying in the cartoon, "Good job, Ben."
He's awesome. He's awesome. Millard Fillmore, I think the height of his artistic expression was the anti-judge campaign, but do you remember the Jon Stewart thing where he basically drew Jon Stewart the scheming?
Oh yeah, yeah, the big old hook nose. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he just drew a comic where the Mallard is if we lower taxes, we'll get more revenue, and Jon Stewart being oh, but what about more money to make children gay so I can molest them?
Do you know why he did that?
What is the point of this?
Do you remember why he did that? It was because in the Daily Show America the book they had a segment about Mallard Fillmore where it's just a duck and this huge block of text about why must we tax society's most productive members? Sorry, forgot to tell a joke, and that was it. And That was enough.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
And there was just like months of strips that were just like, oh, time to watch more child pornography. my favorite movie. Is Melon Fillmore still going?
Oh yeah.
Oh, good. Good.
Wow. I haven't read the funny pages in like 15 years, but that's impressive.
I think I'm gonna get back into it.
Well,
Yeah, me too. It sounds like a good hobby.
Yeah.
Well, I want to move on from reviewing comic strips to I've got some very special movie reviews lined up for you guys. But by way of introducing them, I think we should play this clip first. I mean, this is sort of a new character. This is sort of like I don't know, conservative online personality rookie of the year. I'm talking about Ben Shapiro's sister, Abby Shapiro, also known as classically Abby, who is sort of making a play to sort of coast off her brother's mega popularity to be sort of like a sort of conservative like lifestyle blogger and like influencer. But she's also like previously known famously for her wonderful singing voice. And this is one of the most talented things about her. She's really incredible. So let's just let's run that clip of Abby Shapiro singing the national anthem. And I believe this was at CPAC.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the
There we go. There we go.
God.
There we go.
were so
Chris, can you just jump ahead to Home of the Brave? There we go. There.
That star-spangled banner
I'm taking a knee. I'm taking a knee.
Oh God!
Oh
Do
my
it.
fucking
Go for
God.
it.
and the home of the
Oh!
brave.
Holy
Oh my God.
shit.
That actually like really hurt. Like that
Yeah.
hurt my fucking ears.
Hurt my ears.
Yeah.
That's because you guys are used to all your hip hops and such. You don't
Yeah,
know
that's
what
true.
it is to hear a classically trained musician using their voice as an instrument. I'm sorry that they don't have that on TikTok.
By the way, we started out talking about YouTube algorithms. Like just on the YouTube page for that clip, like one of the suggested videos down was probably a 9-year-old Ben Shapiro playing the violin, and the title of the video was Ben Shapiro plays Schindler's List.
That's dark. That's dark. My only interaction with Ben ever was he tweeted one time. He tweeted, "What's your favorite underrated film? I'll go first. Mine's Amadeus." And I just replied, "Amadeus won Best Picture and 11 Oscars." Oh my
I
god!
mean, it
It's
hasn't been
amazing.
remade, so I guess that means it's technically underrated now.
True. I want to remake it with like Lil Nas X just to watch Ben Shapiro's head explode.
Yes.
I like the Ben Shapiro and Abby Shapiro like their like obsession with like violin and classical singing. It's cool because their interpretation of it is so shitty and shallow that
Yeah.
it's just like they only like it in the sense that it's like, oh, this is enjoy this while you're. We're enjoying this while you're listening to rap, and it's literally
It's pure. It's just resentment. Like there's no
Yeah.
actual. Like because they're one-dimensional humans who can only like operate on the axis of who they hate, and like things like classic culture are used as weapons. Because that their parents were, because his dad's the composer, I guess. That they just got like the enforced classical education with the idea of we're going to make these kids into real classy, fully cultured people. But because it was just, rote and forced, all they have is just like this sad simulacrum of it. And so now for Abby, like classical music just means bellowing like you've been fucking shot with a harpoon.
Yeah.
Also, I will say, like, and I don't throw this word around a ton, but like I think Ben is legit racist. I remember I saw one time on Twitter, like when Black Panther came out, right? Like, whatever, black people were super excited. Finally, like a huge $100 million plus movie that's like not just like for us, but it examines blackness and it's about colonization. Like they were very excited. They were dressing up and going to like the premieres and stuff and like Ben just like there's so many tweets of him being like, Wakanda isn't real. And like blah blah blah. Like the most important thing in the world, according to black people, is that Black Panther came out. And like all these fucking tweets shitting on them, and then someone put up next to them every tweet where he's like, and if this was Westeros, we'd be doing this. And, in Westeros, they did this. And it's like, oh, okay. So Game of Thrones is cool, but like, whatever. Black Panther is terrible because I get it, Ben.
Oh, wait.
We see you.
Chris, drop that classically Abby singing Old Time Road, as long as you're talking about Little Time. This is some high tier warbling right here.
I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride.
That's fucking rough.
I surrender. I'll tell you where the bomb is.
That is fucking rough.
Yeah, well, they know why it's supposed to be good. They've had it drilled in their head why this is good. This is good culture. This is classic culture as opposed to the bad modern culture. But they have no idea why. They don't know what the actual like values of it, like the actual valences of it are. They just know you warble, and that's better than rapping.
Yeah, if you
warbling and playing a fiddle is better than rapping and playing hip hop beats or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, if you ask them like, "Oh, what's your favorite symphony?" They'd be like, "Just name some shit that they play on CVS at the CVS in-house radio station, or like the Band of Brothers theme."
It would have to be something that people.
Symphony.
The thing is, they're wedded to this culture they hate because everything that they like has to be in relationship to that. Like they can't operate as in sort of a quietist mode of enjoying classical culture for its own sake. It can only be a weapon.
Well, speaking of that, their views on culture, I would like to share with you now. These are a series of man and wife, traditional husband and wife movie style watching. This is Abby and her husband sharing their thoughts, I should say, on the films of Quentin Tarantino. And like, this is a long video, so let's just get just get a taste of like
the husband appears to have pink eye. That is pretty classical to get that.
All right, so like let's begin with Abby and her husband, their review of Reservoir Dogs.
Okay. I thought it was extremely along the lines of if you gave a competent high schooler the opportunity to film a stage play.
Yeah, it was very overrated. People talk about this movie like it's amazing. And you know what's weird is it's been a couple of days since we've watched it, maybe a week or so, and I kind of get why. After a certain length of time, you remember the snapshots of it, but actually watching it, no, it's not.
Well, that's
very
every
good.
Tarantino movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really think that's kind of his thing, is that afterwards, after a little bit of time has passed, you remember the punchy moments, and so you're like, oh, I remember liking that movie.
Is Tarantino the memorable ex-girlfriend or boyfriend of film directors, in the sense that, like, you're watching it and you're bored because almost 90% or more of his movies is just dialogue you don't really care about in order to characterize without characterizing people you feel nothing towards.
Yes.
And then the few things you remember are his 2 to 3, it's always 2 to 3, stylish moments in the movie that are like, oh, that was a cool thing, which he probably stole from somewhere else because he's a massive film nerd who just cribs notes.
Yeah.
And then it's a week, it's 2 weeks, and they're like, yeah, that was a cool moment. Maybe you look it up on YouTube. Yeah, that was a cool moment.
Right.
And then you forget that the movie is an hour and 40 minutes of just boring nonsense otherwise, or 2 hours, then 2.5 hours, then 2 hours 15 minutes, then 3 hours of nonsense. The guy just keeps adding more more and more into these movies. And
All right, we get it, man.
Okay, we got. If you go on in this video, Abby's husband will say,
God.
His problem with Reservoir Dogs is that like it seemed like it was just like a play rather than a movie, and he also says he didn't care about any of the characters because Tarantino doesn't give them any backstory. And I was just like, yeah, like it would have been a much better movie if it spent like a lot of time just outlining, like, why did these men turn to a life of crime? Who is Mr. Pink really?
I think Felix and I might be able to speak on this a little more based on our ethno backgrounds, but it appears he is suffering from a symptom of having your yarmulke too tight onto your head, and it cuts off the airflow to your brain, and you say stupid things.
And when she talks about like, it's just his movies are like 2 to 3 really like stylish moments that you remember and like, and then you watch it again and it's really bad. It's like she's talking about the scene of a guy getting his ear sawed off and then gas poured on it. Like that's the cool fun thing that she's remembering, and she's like, oh, the rest of it's so boring though. So, all right.
How could they not like Inglourious Basterds? Didn't they love that movie? Shouldn't they have loved that?
All right, let's see what they have to say about Pulp Fiction. Reservoir Dogs. That's a first effort, but Pulp Fiction. This is the one that really made him.
Mm-hmm.
So Pulp Fiction, 1994. Again, an ensemble crime movie set in Los Angeles. Oh, where did he get that idea before? And so here it's even more disjointed, right? Reservoir Dogs was going to be heist movie. It went wrong. Here it's like an anthology series of short stories that are about a bunch of different characters across the LA underworld. A lot of vignettes, and they intersect, and they don't intersect, and they're anachronistically ordered. So, you're going back and forth in time and across threads, and it's like stylishness of the movie.
Yes,
not
very
fashion.
much so.
Oh my goodness, not fashion, but in terms of like self-consciously directing. Yes, wait.
Yes.
Oh, I think we're getting into opinion. Time to hit the clock.
Okay, let's go.
Boom.
So here's what I thought about Pulp Fiction. It felt like the kind of movie that tickles your brain. You're like, oh, I remember that person from that vignette. That's cool. It connects. Does it mean anything? No. But
wait, I'm sorry,
wow.
We're talking about Pulp Fiction or all Tarantino movies? Does it mean anything?
No. Fair enough. But this movie specifically, I felt that. I felt like, oh, this is kind of fun because you're connecting the dots, because he's kind of like giving you little hints in each vignette of how they all connect, and that's kind of like entertaining, but it doesn't mean anything. And I feel like that's a big thing, exactly like you just said, in Tarantino films, is that there's all this style and there's all these things that he puts in, like when you open the briefcase, it glows. Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Well, it turned out they just kind of did that. And then later on, when one of the guys who's like the big producer on the movie was interviewed about it, because, oh my God, the fan theories that we've heard from people when we went on Twitter and said we weren't the biggest fans. Oh, but once you know what's in the briefcase, it's profound. And then it turns out that the people who made the movie said, oh yeah, it's whatever you want it to be. It's just a plot point. Like, we put a light in there because it was cool.
Right.
That's the level of the creator's relationship to this movie. But because the style and the way it's talked about feels so significant, people want to import meaning. But like, this is like a bad English class where your teacher tells you the book is great, and so just gives you an
okay,
A
all right, pause. Okay,
Sir,
so
I give up. I surrender.
it's okay. It's like you say it's like a bad English class because it allows you, the viewer, the ability to import meaning on something that isn't explicitly spelled out for you. But like, it's clear from their takes on these films, and like, you don't necessarily have to like Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction or think Tarantino's the greatest filmmaker. That like, essentially their problem with them as art is that like they don't just like it doesn't mean anything because the script and director don't tell you what it means explicitly.
Yeah.
All right, so like this is the last one, and this one is by far the most.
Hold on, but can I ask a question? Well, what movies do they like? Like, what do they have? Ones where they're like, this is a great movie. This is whatever. The Chosen, starring Robbie Benson. Like, what do they like? I
would have to do more research into that, but my guess would be like Saving Private Ryan would be their like example. Of like the best movie ever made. But like, okay, all right, let's go to this is the shortest one. I just want to see just the very beginning of it. This is their take on Jackie Brown.
So here are my thoughts on Jackie Brown. It was entirely forgettable.
Stop.
Also, just that's not a movie could be forgettable, but you can't describe it as forgettable and have anyone give a shit. That's not an actual, like, a meaningful criticism of film is one that communicates and it takes the subjective experience of watching a movie and translates it. I don't know what's in your brain, you motherfucker. Why do I don't know if you're fucking what you're forgetting. Maybe you got hit in the head.
Well, we know what's in their brain. Like, if you look at the background of the video, there are these like reprint lithographs of women in fancy dresses from the 20s, and like just I'm obsessed with their interior. Like, look, like if you go to this video, yeah, it's just like their entire house, and really their personal and cultural affect is like if you put a gun in a 10-year-old's face and we're like, all right, you have to become fancy.
Yeah, she's got fucking posters just of ladies in old-timey evening gowns. Just to remind you of a simpler time.
This is a bit of a Star is Born situation where you brought me into this because you hooked me into the star, Abby, but then this other person is a much bigger star.
Yeah,
her boyfriend is her husband is a much bigger star in my mind. And by star, I mean someone that, like, when I wake up to pee at 2 a.m, I'll lay in bed thinking about why is he in my life? Why am I thinking about him right now?
He is a fascinating figure because he's a Jewish man, but his personal style and affect is like, it's like, you know, a guy in the Dallas-Fort Worth area who's $300,000 in debt and hangs out exclusively in axe-throwing bars. And he also has pink eye, again, in this video.
Yeah, also a little bit of the male lead on a sitcom's best friend.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to wear this, like, floral shirt. He's so crazy. He's going to go kick off the B story.
He has the it factor.
So I was watching this excruciating video of them, shit all over Tarantino, which is like, fine, you can make intelligent criticisms of his films. They obviously haven't come close to that because they're just it doesn't mean anything, or like it doesn't tell me what it means, or it doesn't have like a wholesome or uplifting message. And it was like the Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction thing. Like I was watching, I was like, oh god, this is fucking unbearable. And then they bring up Jackie Brown, which I think is like legitimately probably his best film. And they're just like, okay, well, what do you think about it? Totally forgettable. And it's just like, whenever I see this shit, like, these are the worst movies that millennials like. I think you should be required by law to put out your 10 favorite movies so that I can fucking so I can come down on all of it with a steel-toed fucking boot. Because like you shouldn't be able to like just only shit on popular, like, well-respected stuff without like going on the record of like what do you consider like a great film or great art? What's the great American novel in your fucking opinion, Abby?
Yeah, this is absolute shit. It's ruined my day.
Well, okay, let me get you back. Let me get you back, Ike. Okay, so we alluded to it. You and Felix are both Chicago guys.
Yeah, baby, the Windy City, deep dish.
You guys
crime.
Sort of like, yeah, like you're from a city of like just sort of gritty, blue collar American city. Broad shoulders.
The city of broad shoulders, which, you know, in a fully naked situation will make the penis look smaller, but actually measured up with a reasonable slice of the male population, it's actually average or above average.
You know, funny story, it's actually called the Windy City because everyone who lives there is so obese, they're always farting.
It is an incredibly fat city, and that's like, I'm considering moving back just because it's like, I could gain 30 pounds and still be a fashion model there. It fucking rocks.
It's the best. And the food really is the best. Yeah, it's a beautiful lifestyle. It's wonderful. Blessed.
Well, so I wanted to take this opportunity to return to an old friend, a fan favorite, and a guy I think we've actually only really highlighted, despite, being a large part of all of our brains for quite some time now. I think we've only ever highlighted him once, and it was when we were in Chicago at the House of Blues. And I, of course, am referring to Chicago's finest opinion columnist, Tribune columnist John Cass, and I've got a wonderful John Cass op-ed for you today, and I chose this one because like John Cass, they're hard to do for a reading series because like they're so predictable usually in that they're just like he's venting his spleen at like the woke warriors, or like the mayor isn't, putting homeless people in camps, or, or his big thing now is George Soros, which is, can sort of see where that's going, and he's getting some, getting some
that's
stick for
it.
that. But like the column that I read at our live show in Chicago was like that's like the real beating heart of John Cass. Like what makes him like interesting and like a real alpha is the sort of like the sadness that he expresses about his own life. It's just sort of like the portrayal of just sort of one man's depression and kind of feeling of loss and remorse. Not I would say remorse, but like it's just there's something very sort of poignant about him. Like I think the one I read was about like him just doing a barbecue and feeling sad because his kids don't talk to him or something like that.
No, it was that he couldn't have sausage because his doctors were like, John, you can't have sausage for every meal, and it was like his family trying to get him to eat like raspberries or some shit. He's like the most Alexander Payne-like of all columnists. Except
Yes, that's
for,
a very good. That's a very good. Yeah.
He's like, I guess like if you're doing this thing where it's like, oh, we need to deplatform people, like he would be up there because he's very racist and awful. But it's also like, I don't know, he speaks to a type of Chicago guy where it's like, oh yeah, in 1974 I had this opportunity to invest in some land that later became like, something around Damon. I could have made millions of dollars, but instead I spent it on like a failed go-kart investment that I'm still paying the debt servicing on. My kid went to mime school and he doesn't talk to me. The doctor says I can't eat sausage literally for the rest of my life. Just like a baseline of sorrow.
Yes.
And a feeling like you've lost it all.
Yes, it's a
He's
feeling.
also like he's like if you did Multiplicity with Mike Royko, he's the fourth one.
No, Felix, that's what I was looking to capture. It's like it's his expression of sorrow and loss that comes across, and I think like the reading series, the ones that I like the best are the ones in which the person gives you a glimpse into their life that betrays so much about like you're like, oh, I get it now. That explains why all of their other opinions are so fucking wretched and like they seem like such evil, miserable people. So here is John. This is John Cass's. This is a column, a very recent one from just this past week. The column is titled "Taking Zeus the Wonder Dog for a Walk in Chicago to Avoid Politics." So he's telling you, this is not a political column. This is a John Cass slice of life column, and it begins here. A nice frenemy I want to call Karen, though her real name is Janet, is of the left and hates my take on politics.
John Cass is snapping on white women. John Cass is done with Karens. This just fucking ham-faced 70-year-old Greek man is just like, I'm done with white women, y'all.
He says, though Karen Janet lives in a woke world, she isn't completely irrational. She does love my Cass onion soup. And I guess like,
yeah, I'm sure it's
first
great,
of all,
man. I'm sure your fucking sorrowful soup that you just miserably eat on a July day, just sweating more than normally.
This column was written in August. I'm just like, imagine eating onion soup in the middle of August in Chicago.
I would love to just sit on John Cass's creaky back porch eating soup in pure silence, and it's only cut every like 10 minutes when he's like, the rappers are getting more bold nowadays. And you're like, yeah, John, whatever.
I don't know, man. When it's 102 degrees with 100% humidity, I love a nice hot bowl of onion soup.
But also, it's like this is a person who's this Karen. He doesn't really define the extent of their relationship. He knows her well enough to know her politics and to know that that she doesn't like him. But like, under what circumstances he offered her French onion soup, the Cass onion soup? Sorry,
it's his mistress.
Yeah.
She's a 23-year-old DePaul student. She's smoking hot. She couldn't resist John just eating a sausage with his bare hands, holding it like a spear, and just calling the police because he heard Old Town Road.
Well, I have to assume, like every opinion columnist who writes about a person, she does not exist.
Oh yeah, no, I think
like
you're right.
Every opinion columnist is like, I had an interesting, David Brooks. I had an interesting, a handsome cab driver the other day who said something that really opened my eye. Like it's all bullshit. It's not. It's just they're sitting by themselves at their computer thinking about what what are some scenarios where I could kind of look good.
Yeah, I think this was. I think you're totally right. Like,
yeah.
it was another John Cass day where he just like spent 7 hours moving in between the living room and his office, and like if he saw anyone in between during that journey, he'd be like, Lori Lightfoot's going to make Antifa the Cook County Commissioner. And they would just go, oh, that's good, John.
See, no,
and he was like, oh, what if I was talking to somebody?
I agree with you. Like the opinion columnist thing in these scenarios that they talk about is they are imagining a scenario that didn't happen, that like in which they will look good or insightful or a bus driver told me that I had my head on straight or whatever. But like what I like about Cass is that he invents scenarios in which he only looks bad and awful.
Yeah.
So he goes on and he writes here. She might consider me intelligent, perhaps even virtuous, if I ignore politics and stick to her approved topics, like those outstandingly delicious peaches of Calhoun County. And then in parentheses, as a diabetic, I can't eat them anymore. Or gardening. I don't have a garden anymore.
Holy shit.
This is what I mean.
Wife took the garden. Wife took my ability to process sugar.
This is like... You know how, like, American conservatism is different from European conservatism because it's psychotically optimistic, and European conservatism is like, all is lost, like, Europa is lost, the jungle begins at Calais, we can only stand against the immigrant hordes, but our way of life is over, my grandchildren won't even recognize the life I lived. Like, it's marked by this dour pessimism. John Cass is, like, probably the only American conservative who's like that. He's like, yeah, Peter Hitchens.
No, yeah, but like this, but because he's from Chicago and not England, it's like the sausage eating column. It's like all of his writing is about like just every last ounce of joy being drained out of his life, like a cyst or something. And he's bringing it up. I wish he could talk. I love her outstanding peaches. Can't eat them anymore, or I'll die. Yeah, I would love to grow them in my own garden. Don't have a garden anymore.
No garden.
All right, so going on here, he goes, happily, Karen Janet will allow me to write about walking Zeus the Wonder Dog and my anguish about where to deposit the presents he leaves when we're far from home. So I got ready to leave the Chicago 3-flat we live in now to take Zeus for a walk in the city of my birth and worry about how to properly allocate his resources later. Don't forget the blue plastic bags, Betty said. If you don't pick it up, the rats will come.
He doesn't know how to pick up dog shit? He doesn't know how to pick up dog shit?
That line here, if you don't pick it up, the rats will come. That's like out of Cormac McCarthy. That sounds like a Cormac McCarthy novel. And just, it's very short sentence, this very like harshly punctuated vision of just doom.
It's the last thing Charlize said to Vigo in The Road.
This is...
The rats are coming, John.
Yeah, he deserves an award. Not for the reasons he thinks, but he does.
I was just going to say, he really is like... So Chicago, you guys know who Mike Royko was, right?
Yeah.
You know Royko, right? He really is trying to be like the next Royko. And Royko had this very curmudgeonly, very, kind of sour point of view, but he also had some kind of joie de vivre. Like, there were some things that made Royko happy. They were kind of pedestrian bullshit, like Billy Goats or like a Cubs win. But like, he had bright points in his life that he could kind of move to. So it made it more palatable, even though I wasn't a huge fan. It made it more palatable when he kind of talked about how, Helen Schiller should be executed. But Cass has none of that happiness. He has none of that light. It's all just like, fuck, every column is just FML.
Yeah.
Like, just fuck my life, it's shit.
Royko, I didn't agree with him about a ton, but it's like he had this sort of sense of humor, and there was this ambient sense that he talked to other people. With Cass, it's just like being alone all day and being like, oh, what if I met a fucking Woman's March bitch? She's like, it's just like dated and sad and lonely. Like, I don't get the sense that he talks to anyone.
No, whenever he's walking and he sees teenagers approaching, he prepares to be a victim of the knockout game.
Yeah, 100%. It's just a life of boredom and terror. and not being able to eat sausage anymore.
So his wife says, if you don't pick it up, the rats will come. Realizing what she'd just done, my wife turned to our sons. I shouldn't have said that. Now he's going to use that one. Yeah, said one son. He's going to use that one. The other was eating bacon and was too polite to speak with his mouth full. This is just like, what's this, just this scene he's creating here is just so bleak. He goes, yes, I'm using
my
that.
my humongous sons were just glumly agreeing what a boring terror I am in the household, and the other was eating the bacon I cannot eat.
And then it gets worse. He goes, yes, I'm using that quote. Why? Because Betty gives me no comment on too many subjects, and I'm a journalist. He's talking about his wife. And he goes, when we moved back into the city from the suburbs, I promised this would be our time of romance and adventure. We'd rediscover our city together, find weird neighborhood shops, tiny storefront ethnic restaurants, have more than a few drinks at various taverns, and walk home at night. Yet within days came the government coronavirus shutdown. The restaurants died and the shops closed. The cops, exhausted after being shrieked at by politicians and protesters, went into summer hibernation. We couldn't use the lakefront. We watched the protests and looting on TV. We followed lootings on the neighborhood police scanner. As a type 1 diabetic, I had to isolate. Everything was politics and more politics.
This motherfucker moved back here to Chicago and like 2 days later, Corona hit.
Yes.
Now he's trapped in a tiny apartment. He's like, fuck, I should be back in Palatine. I had a fucking garage.
He is like, his fucking great-grandfather wronged some Albanian wizard, and now the bloodline is cursed. What a nightmare. What a fucking nightmare life.
It's just like, his humongous son's just silently mouthing bacon while he like stares daggers at his wife that he's going to like slag off in a fucking column. And then he's just like, I thought this was going to be our time of romance and adventure.
Oh my God.
I can no longer leave.
Just a cursed mark on his bloodline forever.
He goes, but we did see a spectacular non-political sight in March on a cold, frozen morning. A tiny tree stood in an alley about 4 feet high, its bare branches festooned with blue ornaments. People had tied their little blue dog bags to the branches. They hung, weighted in the wind like so many broken promises. Is he describing seeing again like a freezing cold Chicago March morning? Like it's like a dead tree in an abandoned lot, which people have tied bags full of dog shit to, which he says
finally some good news.
Yeah, which hang like so many broken promises. And then he goes on to talk about his dog. If this wasn't depressing enough, he says here, poor Zeus is going gray quickly. He's not as lively as he once was. He still wants to chomp rabbits and squirrels. He still has the dreaded German short hair pointered whine, but he's not used to feral cats. Zeus ambled down the sidewalk, looking for aldermanic political signs to decorate when he stopped abruptly and did his other business. He wore that embarrassed facial expression dogs use so you won't look at them. I didn't look. And like any responsible rat-hating citizen of Chicago, I used the plastic bag. When I leaned over to pick up his present, a weird thought came to me. I've got to register to vote in Chicago so some well-meaning political organization may harvest my ballot offering. Perhaps a nice precinct captain will fill out my ballot for me. Let's hope the harvesters used envelopes, not bags. We were about a half mile from home, so I looked behind me in case any Karen Janet was walking. I quickly dropped it into someone's garbage can in the alley. Some hate this, some don't care. Some think I should carry it all the way home. I almost called the City Department of Streets and Sanitations for a ruling, but the Chicago way dictates that you never ask for permission, only forgiveness. If I'm wrong on common poop law, draw me a note. I sat on a bench on a public street, lit a fine Maduro, and waited to be arrested for cigar crime. Just then, a cook.
This is 100% what you would find in like the journal of a mass murder. Like it's like completely, it's like psychopathic. There's nothing. Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
Just then, a Cook County judge called. He wanted to talk about my column. Not the one about the vacuum of Joe Biden's eyes as he savors Banana Republic pudding, but the other one. The one about Mayor Lori Lightfoot losing the city while being hung out to dry on the crime wave by other Democrats, including J.B. Pritzker and Cook County Board President Tony Preckwinkle. I said, "How you doing, Judge?" This judge isn't one of, I mean, is this Judge Holden he's talking to?
We have suspended columnist John Cass for living in a different reality that started in 1989 when he opened a cursed trinket in a shop in Old Town.
I'm so sorry. What is Banana Republic pudding? What is that?
It's just,
I think he's doing like a turn of phrase.
That's his little flair.
He's
It's just he thought he's like, am I losing my readers discussing this cold baton death march with my dying dog picking up its shit as I stare emptily into like the fucking lake, wondering why I can't do anything and why there is no happiness left for me in life. Oh no, I'll just drop a little bum all like that. So he goes here. This judge isn't one of those social justice warrior judges who lets violent arrestees out on little or no bail and that idiotic electronic home monitoring program. This is a real judge. Out of favor with Chief Judge Tim Home Monitoring Evans, Cook County State Attorney Kim Don't Lock 'em Up Fox, and her political boss Preckwinkle, who still sees at losing the mayoral election to Lightfoot and clearly believes that revenge is a dish best served cold. Looking behind me for any Karen Janets, I confessed to the judge what I'd done with Zeus's blue poop bags. Was I on the right side of the law, dropping them in someone's garbage can in an alley, or was I an offender? You're within the bounds of the law, the judge said. The garbage cans are public property. You can put your dog poop in there, but be discreet about it. Don't make a big thing out of it. Some people can get upset. I don't want to upset anyone, not even Karen Janet. I just don't want to carry it home. That, John Cass, ladies and gentlemen, the rats are coming.
What are you supposed to take away?
The rat,
than like, yeah.
What you're supposed to take away from it is the rats are coming, and I don't know what to do, but I just don't want to carry this bag of dog shit home with me. I don't want to bring the dog shit into my house.
It's such a tenuous way to get into all. It's like, I want him though in every column now to start off by talking about a pet's like bodily problems, and then like I was expressing my cat's asshole glands, and then I thought about J.B. Pritzker.
Yeah, I like the idea that his house is just like a zoo of dying animals. my snake shed its last skin. Anyway, so here's why the National Guard should shoot to kill in Cook County. Like, it's like I don't know. Like, if I was his editor, what would I tell him other than like, you could just go to like be euthanized in Denmark if you want. Like,
I want Werner Herzog. I want Werner Herzog to make a full documentary on.
Oh my God! Yeah,
like he's the only man with the depth to understand the pain and the sorrow.
God, what a fucking like. I'm gonna read him every week now. This is
yeah.
He doesn't know how artistic this is. Like I have a feeling he doesn't know quite how depressing it is. But holy shit.
Yeah, that was I gotta call my shrink.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think that's it. That on that note of uplift and merriment is, I think, a good place to end the show for this week. But I want to thank once again Ike Barinholtz. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us, man.
You guys, I love you guys. I listen to it. I watch Matt's live streams. I do it all. I said to my wife one night, I go, this guy right now just made a really good point. I want you to watch it.
Oh, no.
He's wearing a Packers hat. And I think he might be on acid, but I want you to watch it.
No reason not to take it seriously.
100%, baby. You guys are amazing, man. Thank you guys
Thanks so much.
man.
Thanks for coming by, man. That was great.